Hey everybody, it's your buddy Grant. And I know that that's usually not exactly how I introduce myself, but this is part of the 25,000 subscriber special, and today I'm not really coming to you as Beard Grizzly, I'm coming to you as myself. And though there really isn't that much of a difference, I'm still myself whenever I do my talking, whenever I am storytelling or otherwise. I'm still very much me. I'm still very much a passionate person, and I don't really change how I talk but I am just somebody that likes to, I don't know, what's the best way to put it? At least likes to dress things up a little bit, make them a little bit more entertaining. But as part of the 25,000 subscriber special, you guys asked for a little bit of knowledge about, well, me. So I figured, hey, why not? I'll just sit down and start to break down exactly what it is that goes behind me, who it is that I am, how it is that I've basically started this YouTube thing, or what exactly cultivated me into the person that I am today. One thing I've never actually done overall is kind of give you guys an introduction to myself. So I figure there's two ways that are pretty common for us today to really get to know somebody in a hurry. The first comes down to a dating profile. And I figured I would actually take a bit of a mock one, or at least kind of a funny one here. We'll go with Military Passions from S. Rogers 1920. And I figured, why not go down a couple different things to kind of talk about, like, who I am and whatnot. We won't do, like, the whole stats things and all that, but at the top is hobbies. He says he used to be artistic, and that's kind of, I guess. Anyway, I'm not going to really read this thing off. As far as my hobbies go, I am somebody that, of course, has liked video games for a very long time. I've also done a fair amount of reading over my years, and I've read a few sci-fi books and whatnot. Sci-fi, fantasy, tech journals, a bunch of different things. And of course I've read the typical manga and whatnot because I am way too far into anime and also Japanese culture as a whole, but I do a lot of history research as well. One of my major things has always been looking back into the past and looking into what made things work the way that they did. For instance, if I look back at something that I've actually had as kind of part of my upbringing, I've looked into the Civil War for a very long time, pretty well almost every year of my life. And I say that because I've gone back to Gettysburg, or I've gone to Antietam, and a few other battle locations that are closer by, since it's kind of nice being, of course, more on the east coast of the US. But the American Civil War has definitely always interested me as something to say, we really went to war with each other, and that's pretty well always been the case for us. It's kind of a shame to really kind of sit back and think about, but that's part of my upbringing. That's part of who I am. As far as what my house life is like, well, I actually still live with my folks, and it's been kind of a tough topic to talk about a little bit, but it's hard for me to move out when all is said and done, thanks to some medical issues and some other pieces that go into it. I need to rely on someone else for a few things now and again, thanks to my migraines and constant headaches that I do have, and it gets a little tough for me to some days even get out of bed or do something on my own thanks to them. It really just rocks my world a little bit when it comes down to having a bad migraine. So for me, it's, I know, kind of a socially unacceptable subject, but for me, it is what I have to do. I have to be around with someone, and I kind of need to make sure that I am partially taken care of. I do steps to make sure that my health is okay. I make sure that my diet is pretty well all right, and I don't overexert myself too much. And I also have to make sure that my stress levels stay down, thanks to what happened to me and what really started a lot of those migraines, which was several years back now, but it was my shingles. The onset of a bunch of stress and depression and whatnot ended up leaving me to, well, have a lot of problems when it came down to my overall headaches, and it formed into something I never expected to get, of course, at an early age of about 23 or 24. I think it was 23. But that also gives you a relative time period to know about how old I am at this point. Not that I've really talked about that too much either. But anyway, getting off of that subject, let's go into something more happier. My favorite foods. I'd probably say that my favorite foods are a little something a little bit more closer and akin towards sushi. I'd say like California roll or salmon roll. Salmon is my favorite fish, though. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a fatty fish, but I still do enjoy it. I don't have it as often as I'd like, though. I can also cook fairly well, but in a lot of instances, unfortunately anymore, with doing, of course, this with YouTube, and then also having the other job, and then taking care of some other family stuff that goes on, I find myself eating out a lot more than I would like to. So I think that meal prep needs to be something I need to consider in my near future again, because I'm putting on a little bit more weight than I'd like to again. But I feel like that's a common thing for most YouTubers or anybody that sits down at their desk almost all the time. As far as just some other things that I like to do in my typical time, I like to actually go out and check out movies, or at least just go to the mall and walk around for a little while. Not necessarily buy anything, but just to do a little something, just to make sure that I get out of the house and have some kind of interaction with humanity. That being said, that's also why I have the job, so that I'm not focusing so much on YouTube, because I feel like if I didn't go out now and again, I'd be a lot worse off mentally than I am now. Still, that does beg the question, if I were able to go full-time, I wonder how I could change that human interaction and what else I could do, especially if I could even just stream or do something else with others, or at least chat with them. It's not the same thing, but it does at least kind of come close in this internet age that we have. But from here, let me just rattle off a list of a couple of things. My favorite video game would have to be one that I go back to almost all the time, and it's Dead Space. The first Dead Space is probably the best of them, at least in my opinion, and overall it does kind of capture what it was that they were trying to go for, that very alien-esque vibe. I loved it. My favorite book is The Art of War by Sun Tzu, as it is just one that I can go back to often and pull out little bits and pieces that kind of change my thinking on life and how I can approach things. I make a habit of it to go back and read it almost once a year, just to see if there's anything else that I can really pick from it, and probably the moment that I don't will be the moment that I start to read it either bi-yearly or maybe a little bit longer periods than that. But for now, I've been reading it since I really got into work, which is about my 20s, and that's at least serious work, I should say. I've been working since I was about 16, but at least in terms of like serious work, I feel like that's a book that I can go back to pretty often and have a lot of fun with, and just pick out little bits and pieces like about my life, like I said. Favorite movie would have to be The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. There's just something about an old spaghetti western that I just absolutely love and enjoy. But that one in particular, of course, it's a classic. It's one of the best classics that I think that are out there for spaghetti westerns, but for me, that one just holds a little bit more significance. I loved the set pieces, I loved the dialogue, I loved the story setup, just everything about it has always really piqued my interest. And I know for some directors and fandoms that are out there, it's a heavily referenced motif and style that they kind of look back to, at least with that movie. That's not to say that like Fistful of Dollars or For a Few Dollars More are bad films. I still like them quite a bit. But there is something about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly that always I can go back to, and it piques my interest. I have so much fun with it. Then again, as I think about a lot of the other movies that I like, a good majority is drama or action or horror, so I think I'm a little bit more of a serious person. But if I had to pick something of like an animated film, it would have to be something closer to the Studio Ghibli stuff. I've always been a fan of Hayao Miyazaki's work, but Princess Mononoke I think is going to be my number one recommended movie of that entire arc that's out there from Studio Ghibli. And again, it's a little bit more of a serious film. It's probably the darkest film that I think he's ever come up with, theming aside. And I could go on and on about movies, because realistically movies or really anime or any kind of animated film or otherwise is another big passion of mine. It is something that I've got a large collection, and the amount of and the range that I go from with my films and movies that I have collected is pretty well all over the place. I have stuff from the typical, the Marvel films and whatnot. Obviously, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Back to the Future. I've got Ghostbusters. I've got the collection from Mel Brooks. I've got Watchmen, just to name like a few that I'm kind of looking at here off to the side. And of course, I've got a couple of different television shows that I've always liked over the years. I got into Supernatural before that really started having Dragon Ball Z syndrome. I really loved Doctor Who, at least up until Matt Smith was done, and I haven't really gotten back into it since. I know that Peter Capaldi did a very good job, I just haven't gotten into it since then. But anyway, that kind of goes over the ideas of some other interests on my end, at least on the dating profile. But I'll get into the other idea of what it is that we generally look at people for first impression on, and that's a resume. Resumes, of course, are a little bit more professional, but I'm not going to carry it on quite like that. My schooling and education had actually just ended around high school level. I actually pushed myself, though, to go to college, but I stayed there for a couple years, and I really just found that it wasn't for me. I went to one college, I didn't really try for a couple others, I just found that I was going into debt over nothing, because any of the types of majors that I was trying to choose, I wasn't accepted in any of them. I tried for writing, I tried for marketing, I tried for business, I tried for, I think I did some stuff with artistic design, a few other bits and pieces and different things. But obviously my art talent hasn't exactly carried over as well as I would have liked it to, but yeah, anyway. But after 2 years there, I decided to just come home and see what I could do for work, and I started out part-time over at GameStop, as I know quite a few people that I know within this industry like to think is a great job, but it's far from. I was with GameStop for about 5 years, and then I ended up getting fired for really stupid reasons, and I still to this day believe that it was thanks to the fact that I was one of the more higher paid assistant managers within the district. But anyway, I'm not holding a grudge, it's just a matter that I really don't think I went out on the best of terms with them, and they did not treat me very well by the end of the day. So if you're thinking about getting into a career with GameStop, don't, because not only are they doing terribly right now, it's just not worth your hassle. From there, I ended up going over to Best Buy, which took all of I think 2 weeks to get hired with them after I was fired at GameStop, so I should tell you how stupid the instance was that I got fired over. But moving on from there, I was with them for a few years at least. I started doing stuff with cell phones and of course with computers and whatnot, and that's actually where I started to really dig into a lot of my care for cell phones and how the technology was growing and how it fascinated me with the way that it moved along. So I kind of stayed within the industry. After about 3 years, I ended up moving away from there, and I went to Verizon and also AT&T, and I worked for them for between corporate stores or dealer locations, and it was a good time overall. I actually do not mind working for them. It's just sales anymore is not about what is right for the customer, it's about how much you can seep from them. And for my ultimate goal at this point, as much as sales has taught me how to be more of a good person and how to look into how things are kind of crafted within this world and how business is kind of conducted, I've started to see how little I want to stay within that industry and how little I really care to stay within that industry. I still feel there is a way that you can project value to someone based on a product, but a large majority of the time, it comes down to how you spin it that's going to really matter anymore, and for me, that's a problem. But anyway, I have talked enough about my work history and my education history. There's plenty of other stuff that you guys want to know about me otherwise when it comes down to either YouTube or otherwise. And one thing I didn't really talk about too much while I was over at college was stuff about my depression and self-esteem issues and so on. That's actually carried over into my adult life pretty heavily, and it is stuff that I've attempted to push past and seek help for and try to get over, but it is definitely a lot harder than you may expect it to be. Some people say, oh, just stop being sad all the time. It's not that easy. It's also not a matter that it is just being sad all the time. It's having voices in your head that want to go ahead and just knock you down every single time. And that was the entire reason that I ended up getting into doing this. I wanted to try to build my confidence level, so I started doing some stuff with just weapon reviews and so on. And then I started to look into the lore and basis on how this game is put together, of how Destiny is put together. And I started realizing that, wow, I actually have a little bit of confidence in myself thanks to the fact that I'm starting to realize I know what I'm talking about in some regards, and people also like what it is that I'm talking about and kind of listen to my voice and so on. It's a nice little self-esteem booster. As much as that wasn't necessarily the goal, it was to create and inform and just tell people what it was that I liked. It was a nice after effect, a nice byproduct of what we've created here and what we've done here. And this is why I will constantly say that I actually thank you guys more than I will ever thank myself when it comes down to what I've created or what I've done, because you've enabled me. You've given me a voice and at least given me the ability to feel like my voice matters to some degree or some higher degree. I don't give myself enough credit for that, I suppose, and I don't really take well to a lot of compliments or anything. I just keep looking forward at what the next thing is that I need to do, and I don't really think about what it is that I've done. I'm actually kind of terrible at that. And through the last almost 2 years worth of work that I've put into this channel and how I've built it, I've noticed that, of course, things haven't been moving as quickly as I would like them to, and I'm still not full-time on here, which that's nobody's fault, outside of mine. That's absolutely just my fault. I looked back at my body of work that I've created over the last couple of years, and I found that I'm very inconsistent. I've found that I don't create content as often as I probably should, thanks to the YouTube algorithm or what else is going on out there. I also don't make moves to ask for you guys for anything because I don't feel that that's fair to you. You guys are here and giving me the most important thing, which is your time. I didn't start this for money or fame or anything else. I did it because I had a passion for video games and what it was that I was doing. Heck, I actually started out streaming and I found out that that really wasn't for me, and I found out that realistically that is the way that the market is moving, that streaming is starting to be the way that things are paying out a little better, and of course YouTube isn't helping that way, but anyway, I am just here to inform, to have fun, and making the little cash that I do on the side is kind of a nice thing. Are times tough? Yeah. Am I making them tough on myself? Yeah. And it's all because I have a passion more than I do anything else. And I would rather have a passion for something more than I would just carry out my day-to-day life and be a complete and utter robot, which I feel many people have kind of become and allowed themselves to become, to be controlled by the way that everything is kind of built up. Anyway, I'm getting slightly political here, so before I get too far into that, let's double back a little bit. All in all, my time on YouTube, this journey that I've been taking with content creation has had plenty of ups and downs, plenty of problems, plenty of things I've needed to work through and change out and alter within my life to attempt to make it to work. And it's been a good little journey so far. It's actually started to be tough for me because I've looked at what I can create and how I can create it, and I just find that I don't have enough time. I've taken out a lot of, and I do mean a lot, of side things that have kept me away from this stuff and attempted to ensure that I can focus a little bit more on this, but even then, it's still very tough to create the type of content that I kind of do. At least, of course, given the time scales that I'm given and what else I need to get done throughout my day-to-day life. It's tricky. But I say it's tricky because I don't want to make low-quality content. I know that my voice ultimately is what speaks higher, but realistically, I want to attempt to still make things entertaining in terms of the videos that I create and put out or otherwise. And there are times that I need to look at the editing process that I'm doing and say, well, the voice here is more important and I'm running out of time to get this kind of stuff done. I need to focus up on it, so I think the video has to suffer a little bit, but I still need to make the Grimoire cards and I still need to put them in, so on. And that's not me complaining, it's legitimately saying that I don't want to shorthand you guys, and I've never wanted to shorthand you guys when it comes down to the quality of the content that I produce, as I feel that other creators that are out there can't say the same. But I also know that I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I feel that after all is said and done, I may put a lot more pressure on myself than I need to, because over the last several weeks I've been putting out content that I would think is lower quality, but you guys have still enjoyed, and ultimately that's the main goal. I know the most recent could be viewed more as a podcast than anything else, but I don't really do that style all that often. It is something that I wanted to at least put out there, though, to try to work with others and just gush with another person for once on this channel and to have a little bit more fun with. We haven't done any other guest involvements, though, or really had too many extra side talks. It's been a lot of me, and that is something that I still want to attempt to change. The problem is, with how many moving cogs I've been creating for myself and I've been putting onto myself, with the pressure that I've wanted to create different things and look into different avenues and ways that I can build my content, it's been tough. It's been tough to fit in every little piece that I've wanted to, and I feel like I just don't have enough time in the day to do everything that I want to for you guys. And that's the truth of it. I am a person that doesn't really hold back his emotions all that much. If I have something to say, I'm going to say it. I'm going to be, in a lot of cases, blunt about it, or I may have some way that I need to be a little bit more tactful about things as well. It really depends on the situation. But I think that goes for plenty of things in life, and how it is that you end up wanting to have yourself perceived or seen. And that's effectively what it is that I worry about when I'm presenting myself in content mode or otherwise. But yet I look at the channel and I haven't really posted as much or the content that I would like to over the last couple of weeks here, but realistically you guys have been understanding of it and we've done nothing but grow. Where I say this is the 25,000 subscriber special, it may as well be the 26,000, because we passed that already, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. I find that over time I'm becoming more of a fan of this idea of stream of consciousness content, and I'm wondering how much more of it I'm going to end up doing into the future. But that being said, I don't want to drag this on too much longer, since I feel like this is still going to be over a 20-minute video as I'm looking at the timer here. But I hope that this gives you enough information of the guy behind the voice, of the person that is talking to you on a semi-regular basis here about the content and otherwise, and what it is that I want to try to fulfill or want to try to do. Before I do go, however, I do want to say that I've got one other special that I want to do, since again, I haven't done anything for this channel for specials, really, since I think 5,000 subscribers. The last thing I want to do is an AMA, an Ask Me Anything. And what I'm going to do is set up a portion over on the community page, as well as of course leave it open for comments down below. You guys can let me know what it is you want to ask me, if there's anything I missed on either the dating profile or the resume ends that you guys would like to ask me. Or if there's anything else in general, if there's something about lore or other gaming that you would like to know about me, just whatever. That's the whole point of an AMA. And if you're just stumbling onto this channel and you're listening to me ramble on about myself for a little while, you guys can go and check out the other content, of course, that I have based on Destiny lore and some other games that I do kind of poke at once in a while. And otherwise, you guys know the buttons to press. To Guardians and non-Guardians alike, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next space time. Take care.